breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And warmer from the low, welcome to lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. We've got an excellent podcast for you, as we're going to be joined here in segment number 2 by Matt Josephs, aka Major Matt. We have to get a lay of the land as to everything that we're seeing on the prop front here in baseball. How he's taking a look at these interesting wildcard teams, both in the National League and the American League, and then we're going to get some bets for this wonderful Thursday. In the final segment, I'm going to get you guys my picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Thursday as we touch them all. If you do have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you do have one or two ways we offer those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at @GUnit_81. Keep in mind, there's maybe does not matter. So as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. And the other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. Then from there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. While I did not get in any Twitter/X questions today, we did have ourselves a great day of baseball on Wednesday. Let's take a look back at it, try to find some trends, and try to get to know these teams a little bit better.
Games from yesterday is Greg buzzing about. Here is the rowdy recap.
The Pirates are now 4-13 in Paul Skeens' last 17 starts. They get a 4-3 win, and not necessarily thanks to Paul Skeens in this one, as he was not necessarily great in this start. He gives up 3 runs over the course of 4 1/3 innings. Was lucky it was not 4 because there was a man thrown out at home that was inherited by Gregory Soto, who does go 1 2/3 innings scoreless. From there, Camilo Duvall, Luke Weaver, Mason Montgomery. I'll give you scoreless innings, so the bullpen in general 4 2/3 innings scoreless. Jackson Jobe gives up 1 run in 5 1/3 innings for the Detroit Tigers, and then Kenley Jansen strikes in the 9th inning. He gave up a pair of home runs in the 9th as Brandon Lowe gets loud, 27th home run of the campaign, and prior to that, you had Rafael Flores Jr. get his 6th home run of the campaign. Earlier in the game, he got his 5th. That one comes off of Jacob Aguirre's pack, gives up a home run in 2/3 of an inning of work. Tyler Holton, pair of outside the bullpen scoreless. Drew Summers out scoreless, and Kyle Finnegan was able to give you a scoreless inning. And for the Tigers, 2 of 12 with men in scoring position. For the Arizona Diamondbacks, they just continue to win starts that Brandon Pfaadt has now. Pfaadt had some regression in the 7-6 win for the Arizona Diamondbacks. We're now 9-1 in his last 10 starts. 3 home runs allowed, 5 2/3 innings, 5 runs in total. As Jarren Duran, 17th home run season, Nick Sogard his 1st, and Mickey Gasper his 3rd. And Mickey Gasper, 3 home runs over the last 3 days. That's just incredible. But Juan Murillo, 8 scoreless inning. Braden Garcia, Kevin Ginkgo both give you a pair of outside the bullpen scoreless, and Jonathan Loaizaga. He comes in for the 9th and 10th inning, gives up an unearned run in the 10th. Payne Doley, well, the Diamondbacks paid the Doley with giving up 3 runs in 5 innings on the side of Peyton. From there, Greg Weiser, 2 runs allowed in an inning as he was taken deep by Lars Nootbaar. 4th home run of the campaign. Eric Miller, Teron Guerrero, Aroldis Chapman all give up nothing in their scoreless innings of work, and Giovanni Morin gives up 2 runs, one of which was earned in the 10th inning. So Diamondbacks now 67-61. They're clawing their way into the National League wildcard standings, and the Padres, they lose a little bit of ground, 4-2. The New York Mets play some spoiler here as for the Metropolitans, Robert Stock, not long for this game, but not bad. 4 1/3 innings, gives up 1 run. Meanwhile, for Nate Lavender, Austin Warren, and Dan Duarte, they all give you a scoreless inning. Jonathan Pitaro was able to give you a pair of outs out of the bullpen scoreless. There was a run given up in the 9th inning by Kodai Senga, but he gets a save. And Michael King, well, he was a pretty solid King in this one. 2 runs allowed in 6 2/3 innings. Does give up a home run to Carson Benj, his 15th home run of the campaign. From there, you had Yuki Matsui give you a pair of outs out of the bullpen scoreless, but Jeremiah Estrada, 2 runs, 1 of which was earned, gave it up, and that was the undoing of a Padres team that goes 2 of 12 with men in scoring position in this one. In the Battle of Chicago, it was a White Sox getting a 3-0 win over the Cubs. Clay Holmes, 1 run allowed in 5 1/3 innings. From there, Caleb Theobar, pair of outs out of the bullpen scoreless, Trent Thornton scoreless inning. Ryan Rolson does give up 2 runs in 2/3 of an inning. From there, Aaron Savali, 4 outs out of the bullpen scoreless. But how about the tag team effort from the White Sox? Sean Newcomb has the opener, 2 shutout innings. Jose Urquidy gets 8 punch-outs, 6 shutout innings. Grant Taylor from there, scoreless inning to be able to get that one in. For the Minnesota Twins, they get this one in 6-4. They take down the Atlanta Braves. As for the Bravos, you had A.J. Smith-Schwaber give up 4 runs in 4 1/3 innings, and He actually does not take the loss because on the flip side, Taj Bradley, not a lot of length, but solid. 1 run, a lot of 5 innings. From there, Cody Funderburk does give up 3 runs in a third of an inning, but rest of the bullpen does their job. Tommy Nance, Jeff Hoffman, Yandres Gomez, all give you scoreless inning. AJ Minter, pair of outside the bullpen scoreless. And then flip side for the Braves, Dylan Dodd, the Doddfather, pair of outside the bullpen scoreless. Victor Medeiros and Dylan Lee, they combine for 2 innings. They both give up 1 run apiece along the way. Ray Kerr, a scoreless inning, but for the Braves, unable to pull this one out. The Phillies who pull this one out is Aaron Nola. Pretty super in this 4-1 win for the Phillies. 1 run allowed in 7 innings. That 1 run, Javier Sonja solo home run, 6th home run in the campaign. Jonathan Bolin and Yohan Duran, they both give you a scoreless inning. And Sandy Alcantara gives up 3 runs over the course of 6 innings. Luis Arias, his 6th home run in the campaign. John King gives up a run in an inning, and Victor Vodnik scoreless inning. But by then, the damage had been done, and the Milwaukee Brewers, they did a lot of damage on Tuesday. Still did some solid damage here on Wednesday, but 7-5. The Seattle Mariners avenge that loss. As for Logan Gilbert, he does give up 3 runs over the course of 5 innings and was taken deep by Joey Ortiz. 7th home run of the campaign, but for Dustin May, it was May Day. He gives up 7 runs in 2 innings. He doesn't give up any home runs, but team was able to go 4 of 10 with men in scoring position. From there, the bullpen was very good as Grant Anderson along DL Turner up Hall. They were able to come in and kept things scoreless. Anderson 1 inning, DL Turner up Hall 3 scoreless innings. Bryce Wilson 2 shutout innings. Antonio Sensatella scoreless inning. And Sir Anthony Dominguez, well, he's not great. 2 runs allowed in 2/3 of an inning, but Edward Bizardo, Jose Ferrer both give you a scoreless inning. Andres Munoz scoreless 9th inning, and Gabe Spire not out of the bullpen scoreless along the way. For the Kansas City Royals, 9-7, they take down the Athletics. As for the Athletics, the bullpen strikes again as Jeffrey Springs, not bad here. 2 runs allowed in 5 2/3 innings. He does give up a home run to Vinny Pascadino, 7th home run of the campaign, but from there, Scott Blewett does not blow it, and out of the bullpen scoreless. Elvis Alvarado was in the building for a scoreless inning, but Hayden Junger, 3 runs given up without getting a single out, and then Drew Rom gives up 4 runs in an inning of work. Seth Lugo, 5 runs allowed in 6 innings, but Alex Light and Craig Kimbrell, yes, that Craig Kimbrell, they both give you a scoreless inning, and Steven Cruz does give up 2 runs in the 9th inning, including a home run to the wrong Max Muncy, 6th home run of the campaign, but they do find a way to the window there. I will say, if you, like me, had the Tampa Bay Rays run line, this was a rough one. They get up 7-1 on the Blue Jays, and they get the win, but they only win by 1 run. This by kind of 7-6. Now, Max Scherzer did not get help from Jesus Sanchez out there in the field, but 7 runs allowed over the course of 4 innings, including a home run. Cranking him deep. Yandy Diaz, his 19th home run of the campaign. From there, you were able to get some scoreless innings out of the bullpen. As for Braden Fisher, he was able to come in, hold down the 4 for a scoreless inning. Brandon Little, along with Paul Sewell, combined for a scoreless inning. Mason Flew-Hardy and Tyler Rogers, they both give you a scoreless inning of their own. And on the flip side of things, you did have a bit of regression here for Mr. Drew Rasmussen. Rasmussen does give up over the course of his 5 innings of work, 5 runs, including a home run. Don't call his name. Oleander Kirk was able to get a home run for him. That is home run number 7 of the campaign. Cam Boozer, he gives up a run while getting a pair of outs out of the bullpen scoreless. You were able to get from there Kevin Kelly to give you 4 outs out of the bullpen scoreless. Tyler Wells, Brian Baker, the former Orioles, they were both able to give you a scoreless inning to be able to get that one in. The Washington Nationals, they completely hold down the Walker Texas Rangers 6-0 the final. For Cade Cavalli, 11 punch-outs and 6 shutout innings. Will Dion, Max Kranick, Jake Bird, they all give the Bird with a scoreless inning. And on the flip side of things, you had for the Texas Rangers, Kumar Rocker, not give you too bad of a start here. For Rocker, he gives up 2 runs over the course of 5 innings, was taken deep by Jose Tena, 7th home run of the campaign, and Andres Chaparro a little bit later on, his 8th home run of the campaign. That comes off of Peyton Gray, gives up 3 runs in an inning, so it was 3 shades of gray here for Peyton. Meanwhile, Cole Winn gives up a run in an inning. Jordan Montgomery has now become a longer reliever. 2 shutout innings. By then, damage very much had been done, and for the Cincinnati Reds, well, they were on to a 5-4 win over the St. Louis Cardinals. As for the Cardinals, they tried to make things interesting with a pair of runs in the 9th inning, but Chase Burns continues to be solid. 2 runs allowed over the course of 5 innings. Sam Moll, Lewis May, they both give you a scoreless inning. Brock and Roberk also a scoreless inning. Emilio Pagan, he's good at giving up runs. He gave up a pair in his inning of work. Jordan Walker, 25th home run on the campaign, but for Matthew Liberatore, 3 runs allowed in 6 innings, taken deep by cousin Sal Stewart, 27th home run of the campaign. Luis Castillo, he comes in for a scoreless inning. Justin Brule gives up 2 runs in his inning work. So the Cardinals, they take a loss that they probably can't afford in that National League wild card race. And for the Cleveland Guardians, they are looking to try to get back into it in the American League. 1-0, completely shut out here by the San Francisco Giants as the tugboat, Mr. Matt Wilkins, 2 shutout innings as the opener, Adrian Dookie Hauser as the bulk guy, 5 shutout innings, and then Dylan Smith, scoreless 8th and 9th innings. For Parker Messick, he was great, 10 punch-outs, only allows 1 run in 6 2/3 innings, but he takes the loss. Hunter Gaddis and out of the bullpen, scoreless. Eric Zabrowski and Cade Smith both give you a scoreless inning, but nothing doing for the Cleveland Guardians. At the plate, there wasn't a ton doing for the Baltimore Orioles either, as the New York Yankees, they get a nice 5-3 win in this one, despite the fact that Will Warren doesn't lend a lot of length. He gives up 2 runs over the course of 4 innings. He was cranked deep by Pete Alonso, 29th home run season. A little bit later on, nice Beavers, Dylan Beavers. He was able to get his 4th home run in the campaign off of Fernando Cruz. Gives up that solo home run in 2/3 of an inning, but Tim Hill, 4 outs out of the bullpen, scoreless. Brent Hendrick, Paul Blackburn, David Benar, they all do not poop the Benar. They are able to give you a scoreless inning apiece. Meanwhile, for Chris Bassett, 3 runs allowed in 5 2/3 innings. He does give up a home run in this one to Ben Rice, his 34th home run of the campaign. From there, the bullpen was relatively solid, aside from Cam Sanders, who gives up 2 runs over the course of 2/3 of an inning. Grant Wolfram, Yennier Cano, don't you know, they both gave you an out of the bullpen scoreless. Uncle Rico Garcia and Alex Hoppe, both able to give you a scoreless inning, but the Yankees, despite the fact that they've only averaged about 3.5 runs per game in their last 46 games, they just continue to get the job done. The Astros, they get the job done, 3-2 over the LA Angels as well. Yarena, he does give up 3 runs over the course of 5 innings, including a home run to Mr. Christian Vasquez. That's his 7th home run of the campaign for the Wiley veteran, and in his MLB debut, not what Ethan Petco was looking for, gives up 2 runs in 3 2/3 innings to an Angels team that's averaged less than 3 runs per game since the All-Star break. The bullpen had his back, though. AJ Blueboss, Stephen Oker, Brian Abreu, Josh Hader all give you a scoreless inning. Bennett Sosa, 4 outs out of the bullpen, scoreless, and then you had Luke Murphy give you a scoreless inning, Taylor Cicado, 4 outs out of the bullpen, scoreless, and Michael Fulmer, yes, that Michael Fulmer, he was able to come in for a scoreless inning as well. And then you saw to wrap up the night, the LA Dodgers be able to get a 6-4 win in 10 innings over the Colorado Rockies. So if you laid the run line, you're just barely able to get there on this one, as Hiroki Sasaki gives up 2 runs over the course of 5 innings. Alex Vesia then would give up a pair of runs in his inning of work. Mickey Moniak gave him a ride, as for Moniak, 20th home run season, but Brock and Roll Stewart, Jack Dreher, Kyle Hurt, I'll give you a scoreless inning. Tanner Scott, Great Scott, was able to give you a scoreless 10th inning. And then for the LA Dodgers, you had a pair of bombs off of Kyle Freeland, Kike Hernandez, 2nd of the campaign. Mookie Betts, he was the Betts around, his 16th home run season. For Freeland, 4 runs allowed in 3 2/3 innings. From there, the bullpen was solid until the 10th inning, as you had Nick Frazo be able to give you 2 scoreless innings, Jaden Hill, scoreless inning, Mark Manfredi, hopefully you got that correct, 4 outs in his MLB debut, Jordan Romano, scoreless inning, and then Jimmy Erget, 2 runs, 1 of which was earned before Brendan Bernardino gets the final out of that 10th inning. So Rockies, they do lose that one, and if you're taking a look at trend-wise what we're getting in Major League Baseball right now, it's been very much an underwhelming last few weeks. The under rate is now nearly 51%, 949 unders, 914 overs, and his math serves me correct, 45 pushes along the way. Favorites on the money line, hitting at 56.1%, 10,041 and 816, with among those favorites now a whopping, I believe now, 257 failing to cover the run line. Last 30 days, it's been tough on the run line for favorites, as 72 have failed to cover the run line out of the 221 outright winners, 221 and 176 for favorites, so 55.7%, and the under rate 54.8%, 217 unders, 179 overs, and a few pushes along the way. And with the last 7 days in Major League Baseball, overs have been doing a little bit better recently, but still a nice 53% to the under, 50 unders, 44 overs, and if math serves me correct, we have had 0 pushes along the way, with favorites hitting at just 53.3% on the money line, 49 and 43, and 15 of those favorites failing to cover their own line. So that's what we're seeing in baseball right now, and that's what we're getting trend-wise. Coming next, how about if we do chat it up with one of our good friends, Matt Josephs, a.k.a. Major Matt, right here on the Baseball Betting Show, with myself, Greg Peterson, now a part of the Beast and Family Podcast.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the Beast and Family Podcast. Always great to be joined by this man as Matt Josephs. He does a tremendous job on so many different fronts over there with Ariel Epstein on the Prop Queen website, the Prop Queen podcast. I know that he's doing a great job with his own show, Border to Border, over there at ESPN Radio in Richmond. He's taking a look at everything from college football, which I know that that's one of his real passions, and that is going to be getting started here in the next few days. Additionally, does a great job on the baseball front, college basketball, and so much more. You're able to follow him on Twitter/X at MidMajorMatt all together. And Matt, always a pleasure, my friend. Thank you.
Thank you, as always, for having me.
Always great to have you aboard. And Matt, now we have seen the trade deadline come and go. We certainly have had some of these teams be able to rise and fall. And just what are you making out of the landscape in baseball right now, where I feel like we know the top teams, but in the American League, the wild card is incredibly murky. And in the National League, that race between the Diamondbacks and the Padres is one that I'm very intrigued by, too.
Yeah, certainly the third wild card is giving a lot of teams hope that probably shouldn't have hope right now. When you see a bunch of teams with losing records in that fighting for a spot, it kind of tells you, A, it's good for baseball in terms of getting more fans involved, but B, maybe we shouldn't have that third wild card spot because some of these teams don't belong. And then you look on the National League side, I mean, as you mentioned, Arizona and San Diego is a fun race, and then there's St. Louis and Miami kind of hanging on the outside. So, yeah, it's a lot more teams that are involved right now than they probably would be if we were under the normal playoff system.
Yep, absolutely. And is there maybe one of the two of those teams out there in either the American League or the National League that you're starting to feel a little bit bullish on, and they might be trustworthy here coming down the stretch?
Well, I think it's Toronto. I mean, obviously, I don't know if they regret selling Kevin Gausman or not, but I think Toronto's lineup is good enough, and I think their rotation can be good enough to get them through. And, look, I don't think they're going to win rounds per se, but this is a team that was in the World Series last year, and a lot of the same guys are there. I know there's, some guys have left, but Toronto's got a little bit of a thing. And look, I don't want to quit Baltimore. Now, I don't love the rotation. I think that their rotation is just not good enough, but I think their lineup, if all of a sudden they get hot, they're the type of team that could go into a playoff series, a short playoff series, and potentially win as well.
Yep, I do think that those two teams are going to be very interesting to take a look at. And you do mention the Blue Jays, and they are going to be one of those teams that is going to be in action on Thursday, as it is going to be Shane Bieber going to the bump for them. And if you look at the overall season numbers, 4.99 ERA, give it up over 1.5 home runs per 9 innings, but has rounded into great form going against Ian Seymour and the Rays. And Rays are right around minus 160, minus 170 favorites. Want to get your thoughts here, because I think you'd be doing yourself a little bit of a disservice if you looked at the full season numbers for Shane Bieber rather than what he's done after his first, shall we say, 3 or 4 disastrous starts.
Yeah, I like what he has done. And then, of course, I love what Seymour's done. And I think it's interesting when it comes to the Rays, how he had an opener for a lot of the season. And then these last 3 starts, he has gone and started himself, and he's been tremendous. Now, part of it is who he's facing. He was in Coors Field. He was facing a Mariners team that strikes out a lot and is not great against lefties. But Seymour now is a guy that has, he's starting to do well. Now, the one thing you always have to be careful when it comes to the Rays and when it comes to their young pitchers, they are always prone to, at random times, cutting them short with their starts. So he might only go 5 innings and go 70-something pitches. Now, I'm not saying you can't handicap every game and say, well, what if that happens? But it's just something to kind of watch out for, because he's gone 6 innings in each of his last 3 starts, because he's thrown 93, 98, and 90 pitches, and because this team has a potential postseason future here. I wouldn't be surprised if potentially he only goes 5 or something like that, or he stays to 75 pitches. So that's something to kind of watch out for. But I love what he's done so far this season. I think he's a very good matchup for Toronto.
Yep, I think that is going to be a fun one to take a look at, and it's been really interesting to look at the Rays over the last few weeks, because you mentioned the Orioles there a little bit ago. They were a team that was able to win that series on the road, took 3 of 4, and now they've got a big one coming up here against the New York Yankees, with it being Garrett Cole against Kyle Bradish. Yankees about a minus 125 or so favorite, and want to get your thoughts here, because for Bradish, the swing and miss stuff has actually been down for him a little bit this year, but it feels like he's rounding into a little bit of better form. And on the other end for Garrett Cole, been a little bit up and down for him, but that strikeout stuff seems to be returning for him as well.
Yeah, Garrett Cole's an interesting guy because, you're good for at least 5 1/3, 5 2/3, 6 innings. He's a guy that is pretty reliable. And if you look, the strikeout stuff hasn't necessarily been there, but it's more so on the road. I mean, he had 5 strikeouts in Toronto. Toronto doesn't strike out a lot. He had 5 in Chicago. He had 7 in Chicago against the White Sox, but his last couple of road home starts, 9 against the Braves, 11 against the Pirates, 8 against the Dodgers. So this is a guy who kind of thrives at home a little bit more than on the road. So certainly that's something to kind of take a look at here. He's away from home in this situation. Of course, we always want to pay attention to the weather. It could be excessively warm. It's been very warm here on the East Coast, and there's been rain and showers and stuff like that. That kind of goes into the handicap as well. Stray thunderstorms kind of ruin things a little bit, certainly, if you've got a guy out there that you like in the beginning, but his start gets cut short because of weather.
Yep, that's always something that you do want to be taking a look at, and that's why we love games out there in Texas, because you've got a roof over there. And for Jacob deGrom, while he's still getting that good swing and miss stuff with about 11 strikeouts per 9 innings, has given up the deep ball a little bit. And the Nationals are an intriguing team because the lineup overall for the season leads the big leagues in terms of run creation, but we both know this. They sold a lot of pieces at the trade deadline. CJ Abrams has been a rock of consistency, but a little bit of rotation there. And then for Andrew Alvarez, I really think there's some upside with him. He does a nice job in terms of not giving up the deep ball. Want to get your thoughts here with the Rangers, pretty sizable favorite here.
Yeah, and obviously it's because of deGrom and because of the Nationals' recent form. My concern with C.J. Abrams is the position change. Has it bothered him, and is it bothering him in the batter's box? So, that's a guy that, he was going along really well, and then all of a sudden they changed his position. Has it affected him at all? That's something to kind of watch down the stretch. Plus, there's so many young players on that team that you wonder if they've almost run out of gas, and they've kind of come to the portion of the season where it's just like, all right, the playoffs are not going to happen. We're kind of going through the motions a little bit. Jacob deGrom hasn't been himself lately. I know they gave him an extra couple days to get ready, but last start, he only went 2 innings. He gave up 6 hits. He has had at times a little bit of a walks issue. When he's on, but he's no longer a pitcher who's going to go past 5 innings. His last 6 starts, he's gone 5 innings or less. And so I think this is A, them managing his numbers, and B, I think it's him throwing a lot of pitches because he's had a little bit of a control issue at times. So, if this was earlier in the season, I'd be like, yeah, I'm really in on the Nats because their lineup's been really good and they're playing for a bunch of stuff. Now I'm a little concerned about the Nationals and just kind of the way they're playing towards the end of the season with so many young players and nothing really to play for.
Yep, I am right there with you. And I do think that for the Nationals, just selling off those pieces at the trade deadline as well. No more Curtis Mead out there. Having James Wood deal with an injury, that's really adding up, as well as Matt Josephs, a.k.a. Mid-Major Matt. He is going to be right here on the Baseball Betting Show. And certainly I think that this one is going to be a fun one as well, because we do have ourselves a relatively small slate, but a fun one with the Mariners and the Brewers doing battle. And for the Brewers, they're about minus 125, minus 130 favorites against the Mariners. I don't think that the Mariners are going to lose this game 22-0, unlike what we saw on Tuesday, but want to get your thoughts here on a guy in George Kirby that always, as I like to say, does a good job in terms of not beating himself, but the swing and miss stuff has been down, which has elevated the ERA a little bit.
Yeah, and remember, he was a guy, and it was like last year or the year before, he never walked anybody. He was a guy who had half a walk as his prop all the time, and he would not walk anybody. And you look at his last couple starts, 3 walks, 2 walks, 1 walk. I don't know if that's necessarily something that he's kind of going through right now, but he used to be a guy that you could count on to have tremendous control, and that hasn't been as much of the case, at least so far this month. So that's something to certainly watch out for. And certainly with regards to the other side of things, I like this Milwaukee lineup. I have a season prop on Churio's home runs, and hopefully he continues to hit some home runs because I would like to hit that. And I know he started the season with an injury, but I'm really impressed by him. I'm really impressed by this Brewers lineup, and I kind of have the edge right now when it comes to this matchup to the Brewers. The other thing to kind of watch out for as I take a look at my props here, this is the end of a long road trip. They were in New York, they were in Houston, then they were in Milwaukee. They're back home hosting the Cubs on Friday. Is this a matchup where maybe they don't send out their best players? Is this the matchup that you always look at the end of a long road trip where they kind of struggle because they're just ready to come home?
Yep, I do think that that's a big element in this as well. And for the Seattle Mariners, just a strange road trip in general for them as well. So I think that that's something to factor in. And now we will go to the toilet bowl game of the day because, well, for the Royals and the Athletics, they're going nowhere fast, but I think there might be some money to be made here. Gage Jump has been significantly better when he's been away from home rather than at home. And Randy Dobnak, I think we've talked about him once or twice. I have no idea. He's got a sub-2 ERA. He's getting no strikeouts whatsoever. He's giving up quite a few walks. And I think that this could be a good spot to bank on a little bit of regression with a guy in Dobnak that I just have to believe that he's going to come back to her sooner rather than later.
Yeah, if you look at Jump, obviously pitching at home has been a disaster for him at times.
Really, the whole Athletics team.
Exactly, and it's very hard for them, and obviously they're not going to be there much longer, so they don't have to deal with that, but 6.02 ERA at home and a 2.60 ERA on the road. He's got 40 strikeouts in 34 and 2/3 innings. This is a Royals team that has struck out a lot more against left-handed starting pitchers. Now, it's not a ton. It's about 5.38 per game, and you look at the last couple of starters that they've seen. Detmers had 11, Lauer had 6, Snell had 10, Skubal had 6. So, these are legitimate left-hand pitchers, but like if Jump's number, I can't imagine they're going to hang a 4.5. But if we get a 5.5, I might consider looking at the over here for Jump, considering that this is a Royals team that has struggled at times against left-handed starting pitching.
Yep, they certainly have. And have there been just a few trends that you've been noticing in general with regards to prop market ever since the trade deadline that have really been standing out to you? Because we talked about with the Washington Nationals, a little bit of a new look lineup there. For the Royals, they've been an interesting team here recently as well. Has there been a team or two that all of a sudden, because of what happened at the trade deadline, they either have improved or perhaps they've been a little bit worse in the prop market in your eyes?
The interesting team for me is the Rockies because, they're so bad that everybody just assumes they're bad at everything. They've actually gone under their K-prop a lot more than they've gone over. And at home, they've gone under a lot more than over as well because we see some high numbers. And it's kind of like the White Sox last year. The White Sox were a team last year that I hit a lot of unders with, mostly because they had 6.5s and 7.5s, and they would have 5, or they would have 6, and they would go under the 7.5. So the Rockies are one of those teams. Like I'm looking here, Snell, when he just made his start in Coors Field, his number was 6.5 or 7.5. He had 5. This is a team that has seen consistently some higher numbers, but they're going under it, yet they're still striking out a lot. 5.58 strikeouts per game against left-handed starting pitchers, 4.9 against right-handed starting pitchers. So I think we can't just assume because the Rockies are bad at everything that they're bad at swing and miss stuff too, because at home they've gone under more than they've gone over.
Yep, I think that's so well said by you. There's always a few teams that are not so great, like the Colorado Rockies, that can lend you a little bit of value towards the back half of the season. And it's not the biggest slate, but I think that's a good one that we've got on Thursday. Matt, is there anything else that you're taking a look at that maybe we haven't covered?
So the interesting game for me is the Braves and the White Sox. And the only reason why I say that is because situationally, it's a weird spot. You've got the Braves coming in for a one-game series. They just got swept in Minnesota. They're heading to Milwaukee, which is a huge series in terms of the playoffs. Then they got the Dodgers after that. And in between, all this stuff is just one lowly game in Chicago against the White Sox. And I know we talk about look-aheads and things like that more in college basketball, college football, and stuff like that. But, like, could the Braves, these one-game things, they're always weird to me because the lineups could be different. It's an afternoon game in Chicago, so who knows? And then you also look at the White Sox, who are coming off a series against the Cubs. And so, like, that's their Super Bowl. I mean, other than the fact that they're going to make the playoffs potentially, their huge series every season are the two they have against the Cubs. So they're coming off of a huge series. They're hosting Atlanta. Atlanta's coming off of a sweep in Minnesota. They've got the Brewers and the Dodgers next. Such a weird spot. And so I'm curious to see which team gets up for a game like this because it's very simple for either one of them to kind of overlook their opponent in this one and just not give it their best because it's a random one-game makeup game in August.
Yep, that is so interesting. That's something that I do have starred on my card a little bit as well. I'm looking at an over in that spot personally, so we shall see what happens there. And Matt, I know you're doing such a great job on so many different fronts, doing all the great work over with Ariel Epstein, additionally doing an amazing job getting set for college football season, and I'm sure you, much like myself, trying to make whatever you can out of the college basketball landscape that has been oh so murky over the last few weeks. So let the good people at home know it's all on tap for you, and how people can follow along on social media and other platforms.
Yeah, basically, it's just whoever has eligibility is potentially coming back to college basketball, and certainly in college football as well. So, like, if you're in an NFL camp, oh, well, you could potentially come back and play college football. But seriously, though, I posted my win totals for the upcoming college football season. I've been very good in those the past couple of years. I posted my Heisman portfolio. As you said, college football is probably my number one. Baseball is probably number two. College basketball, number three. But really looking forward to the college football season. And, of course, with baseball, there's all sorts of prop markets out there that you don't necessarily handicap. So if somebody wants to ask me a question at Mid-Major Matt on Twitter, because we all have the same goal. We all want to beat the books.
We certainly do, and Matt, he does such a great job on so many different fronts. Every single time he joins me, learns such great insights, and did so once again today. So big thanks to Matt for joining me on the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. And coming up next, it is that time of the podcast to give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Thursday as we come tomorrow.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. It's always a pleasure to be joined by our guy, Matt Josephs, aka Mid-Major Matt. He does an excellent job taking a look at this great game of baseball. I know that he is doing an absolutely tremendous job getting set for the upcoming college football season, always taking a look at college basketball and so much more. So, big thanks to Matt for joining me in the last segment. Now it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Thursday as we touch them all.
If a game is listed on the betting board, Greg has a side and a total on it, so it is time to touch them all.
Do note that as per usual, any changes that are made to these plays will be listed up on my Twitter/X feed at @GUnit_81. We are going to be going in Las Vegas rotation order. This is where we go with the National League games first in time order, of which there's only one of them. Then the American League games in time order. Any interleague games, those are going to be at the bottom. That'll keep things all nice, neat, clean, and easy. How about if we get things started? This is 9:51, 9:52 on the card. You've got the St. Louis Cardinals, and they are going to be on the road against the Cincinnati Reds. Yes, we're on to Cincinnati, who's on to Brady Singer, who said the Cardinals singing the blues, and you've got Michael McGreevy, who's going to be going for the Cardinals, and Cardinals do find themselves as slim favorites here, -110 to -114. -106 to +101 is at number on Cincinnati, 9 is the total. Over is -110 to a -115. Under is -105 to a -110. Set the Reds at a -124. I'm going to be in on the money line. I do think that for Brady Singer, we're probably going to see a little bit of regression from this hot run that he's been on recently, but I am liking the current form of him. He has given up 3 earned runs or fewer in 11 out of his last 12 starts. Overall for the season, still a 5.66 ERA, 5.13 fielding independence, so that's been a little bit less than tremendous for him, giving up 1.7 home runs, 3 walks per 9 innings, and you do have a Cardinals team that averages 5.1 runs per game away from him. That is a top 5 mark in all of baseball. Jordan Walker really been leading the way for this team, supplying now 23 home runs, hitting about a 285, but you've got plenty of guys that do move the line. Ron Herrera is a 360 on base, Alec Burleson, J.J. Weatherholt, these are a pair of guys with over a 345 on base, and you got the likes of a Blaze Jordan towards the bottom of the fold who hits for average, not necessarily drawing a lot of walks. You need more of these guys like Nathan Church, Jimmy Crooks, Pedro Paz at the bottom of the fold, but certainly the top has been solid. And for the Reds, while they are a bottom 10 team in terms of run creation, three of guys who have been able to give you at least 20 home runs. JJ Bleday, even though he really doesn't hit for average at a 220, 333 on base, 20 plus home runs. Ellie De La Cruz, 20 plus bombs. He's up to a 340 on base, and then cousin Sal Stewart, he's been able to do a nice job with the 25 bombs. And Eugenio Suarez is hitting for home runs as well, but and he has been not hitting for any sort of average whatsoever. And then these guys like TJ Friedel, Michael Taglia, these guys at the bottom of the fold, they just really need to be giving you a little bit more of something. And for the Reds, it is a bullpen that has been relatively rough. You've got a pair of guys in TJ Antone and Brock and Roll Burke who've been able to give you a sub 350 ERA, but Pierce Johnson, Samuel, those veterans have not been great. And on the other end of things, you've got a bullpen for the St. Louis Cardinals that has had out there Mance Vanson for a bit of time. They don't have him in there right now, but he's been all sorts of brutal. Ryan Stanek has been giving up a bunch of runs. Justin Burrow, Gordon Gustafo, even George Soriano, sub 375 ERAs, but certainly not a bullpen that I'm trusting in, so I do think they're going to get a lot of runs, especially if Michael McGreevy, even though he's got a relatively low ERA, getting just 6.1 strikeouts per 9 innings. He's been giving up the 1.2 home runs per 9 innings, so while he's got a 342 ERA, 425 fielding dependent, like the over semi-total 9.7, and for the Reds, willing to go up to -123 on the money line. 953, 954 on the card. The Blue Jays are on the road against the Rays. Ian Seymour goes for the Rays. Shane Bieber hopes to have a fever for getting outs for the Blue Jays, and Blue Jays find themselves as a pretty good-sized underdog here. You're going to be catching them between +144 to a +150. Meanwhile, -160 to -175. That number on Toronto. 7.5 is the total. Over is -115. Under is -105. Seeing a straight 8 that under is -125. Over is +105. I set my total 7.9. Would rather have the 7.5 over rather than the straight 8 to the under. For Ian Seymour, he's been posting up not necessarily the world's greatest ERA, but I actually do think that he's doing a solid job for this bunch. His strikeouts per 9 rate is one of the better ones that you're going to find in the American League. 10.7 strikeouts per 9 innings. Has given up 1.4 home runs per 9 innings, but 4.11 ERA, 381 fielding independent, and has been great of late as he has given up over the course of his last 5 starts 3 runs or fewer in every one of them. I believe a grand total of 8 runs in this time span. And for Shane Bieber, he's been better recently, but at the same time, you do have to have your trepidations because he's not getting the same amount of swing and miss that he used to. 6.8 strikeouts per 9 innings, by far a career low for him. Has given given up now 1 run in 3 out of his last 5 starts, so that's solid. 4.99 ERA, but a 5.71 fielding independent. And for the Tampa Bay Rays, maybe not like the most fearsome lineup in the world, but you do have one of the most fearsome bats in all of baseball. Junior Caminero, 33 plus home runs. He, along with Jonathan Aranda and also Yandy Diaz, I'll give you at least a 360 on base. Liam Hicks, also the newly acquired piece from the trade deadline, he's been able to give you 15 plus home runs. He's up to a 370 on base. Chandler Simpson has a great piece dealer that's hitting above a 300. And for the Blue Jays, bottom 4 team in all baseball in terms of run creation, Kazuma Okamoto, lone guy in the roster with over 12 home runs. He's up to 24 or 25 home runs. And now you are getting back Alejandro Kirk, as you've got guys that are getting on base for the team. Macy Sanchez, Uncall Zame, Alejandro Kirk, Brett Bateman, a lot of guys hitting above a 260. Vigero when he's out there, but currently dealing with a little bit of injury. But that said, just not getting a lot out of this offense. For the Blue Jays, it has been a bullpen that has been relatively solid. Tyler Rogers, Louis Varland, these guys have been able to give you a sub-225 ERA. I like Spencer Miles as a long guy, sub-350 ERA out of him. Braden Fisher's been solid. Brandon Little, well, he's come up very little for the team and for the Tampa Bay Rays. If you look since June 1st, this has been a top 9 team in terms of bullpen ERA. You've got Cam Boozer, who's been able to give you a sub-325 ERA, along Kevin Kelly and Brian Baker. Now, Tyler Wells, Garrett Clevenger, they have been a little bit shaky recently, and they're still dealing with a few injuries in that bullpen, and now Griffin Jack's landing out of the fold. That's going to hurt this team as well, but I also do think that Shane Bieber is coming into a little bit of better form with that banged-up Rays bullpen, and the Blue Jays really being able to ignite in this series with regards to their offense. I do think that this is providing a little bit of value. Plus 149 or better, and on the Blue Jays on the money line with the improved form of Bieber, and I do like the over. Semi-total 7.9. 955, 956 on the card. The Athletics are going to be on the road against the Royals, as this should be gauge jump going for the Athletics, and Randy Dobnak is on the bump for the Royals, and the Royals do find themselves between minus 135 to minus 143 favorites. The underdog Athletics are anywhere in the neighborhood of plus 116 to a plus 125. Total is 8.5. Over is minus 120, and the under is even money. And I am going to be all aboard the over in this case. I saw my total 9.6. Now, I fully recognize that for the Athletics, they are without their top 3 home run hitters. When you're dealing with having all these guys like Shea Langoliers is going to be out of the fold. You still have Nick Kurtz out. Now Tyler Soderstrom. It lands on the injury list, that hurts, but they do get back Zach Galoff, who's been able to give you 14 plus home runs. He's hitting above a 270, and Randy Dobnak just continues to be so due in for aggression that it's not even funny. Like, my goodness, you take a look at the way that this guy has been just able to hold down the fort, and it's remarkable because he is getting absolutely no swing and misses whatsoever. For Randy Dobnak, he has to be the luckiest pitcher in all of baseball since they promoted him. A 1.73 ERA compared to a 3.66 fielding independent, 5.4 strikeouts, 0.4 home runs allowed per 9 innings, but 3.5 walks per 9 innings. He has given up 0 or 1 earned runs in 4 out of his last 5 starts. There is absolutely no way that this is going to continue, even against an Athletics lineup that, well, they're looking very unathletic. Lawrence Butler has been a big, giant disappointment for this unit. You just have not been able to get a lot out of the catcher spot since Shea Langoliers has been out. You do have Jeff McNeil along with Henry Polte, though, both hitting above a 260, and Carlos Cortez continues to give you about a 335 on base, and then for the Royals, it's a much better offense at home rather than away from home. They average only about 3.65 runs per game away from home, closer to about 4.75 runs per game at home. You've obviously got Bobby Witt Jr., hitting bombs, Salvador Perez, Carter Jensen, all between 15 and 16 home runs entering into the day on Wednesday. And then Jack Haglione, he's up to 22 home runs. He's hitting at 275. Getting Miguel Garcia in there, hitting about at 265, has been solid for the team. And Tyler Tolbert moves the line. They DFA Starling Marte, who was giving you a little bit of average, but not really a lot of pop. And these are the worst 2 bullpens in terms of ERA in all baseball. And for the Athletics going into the day on Wednesday, 6.68 bullpen ERA. That's just absolutely awful. For the Royals, it's so bad that they've got Craig Kimbrell in this bullpen. He, Alex Lang, Steven Cruz, Lucas Ursage, so many guys posting up a well over 4 ERA. And then for the Athletics, Hogan Harris, he's been your best bullpen piece all season long, and even he blew a game earlier in this series. Scott Blewett has actually given you a 3 ERA, so maybe there's a little bit of something there. Elvis Alvarado has worked his ERA down to a 4.62, but man, it's relatively rough here. And for Gage Jump, he has been posting up an ERA of a 4.50, but if you look at the swing and miss stuff, it's pretty solid. Under your 10 strikeouts per 9 innings, has to control the walks. Over 4 walks per 9 innings, 6.02 home ERA, 2.60 ERA away from home. Away from home, only giving up about 0.85 home runs per 9 innings. Rare that I say this, but a value here on the Athletics. I'm going to be willing to take them at a plus 117 or better on the money line. I like the over. Semi-total 9.6, 957, 958 on the card. It is the Yankees. They are going to be on the road against the Orioles as Kyle Bradish goes for the Orioles and Garrett Cole for the Yankees. Yankees find themselves as a bit of a favorite here, as you're going to be laying with them in that neighborhood of a minus 118 to a minus 123, seeing as low as minus 115, and then even money to plus 110. That number on Baltimore, 8 is the total. Over is minus 115, the under is minus 105, and I like the under. I did semi-total at a 7.8. Garrett Cole was a little bit shaky towards the beginning part of the season. It really seems to be coming all together from a 3.22 ERA, 1.1 home runs, 2 walks per 9 innings, and the swing and miss stuff, especially first few starts, it wasn't so great. He's back up to now about 9.6 strikeouts per 9 innings, and for Garrett Cole, when he's been away from home, only giving up about 0.6 home runs per 9 innings. When it comes to Kyle Bradish, he's been having a little bit of a tough time with regards to command. Now, he's not really giving up a whole bunch of rockets or anything like that, only giving up 0.9 home runs per 9 innings, but the swing and miss stuff is way down, 8.4 strikeouts per 9 innings, about a 3.65 ERA, 3.86 fielding independent. Will benefit from facing off against a Yankees team that entered into yesterday in their last 45 games, averaging 3.4 runs per game. Like, my gosh, it's not great to say the least. They do pick up Luis Garcia, sitting at 275 with over 20 home runs. Hasn't done a ton of pinstripes yet, neither for Eloy Ramos. Now, Ben Rice, still for the season, 32 plus home runs, about a 345 on base. He's starting to regress, so like Gerard Lombard is like the only guy outside of Ben Rice who was in the starting lineup yesterday with above a 315 on base. Like, you just need more of these guys like Spencer Jones, Jazz Chisholm, Ryan McMahon, whole bunch of disappointments there. And I mean, for the Orioles, you do have quite a few guys that aren't doing the greatest job in terms of getting on base themselves. Leody Taveras, Kobe Mayo, along with Carlos Narvaez, Colton Cowser, if I haven't said him already. You just go down the list of guys, 230 or lower. Now, you are having Gunnar Henderson go off for about like 18 to 19 home runs. That's nice. And Jackson Holliday's up to a 340 on base. Getting back Samuel Basayo should be able to help out. He's been able to give you 15 plus home runs. And for the Orioles, this has been a top 10 unit in terms of bullpen race since June 1st. They do trade away Tyler Wells, but Rico Garcia, along with Ynier Cano, these guys have been able to give you a sub 330 ERA. Josh Walker has been pretty solid in the bullpen. Andrew Kittredge, you'll look at the overall season number of a 362 ERA, and you'd be thinking, hey, it's solid, but it's not necessarily amazing, but did not allow a single earned run in the month of July, has regressed a little bit in the month of August, but I mean, you take out that bad May, and he's actually been a really good reliever for the team. And for the New York Yankees, they have been a top 2 team in terms of bullpen ERA for much of the season. You've got the likes of David Bennar, Brent Hedrick, Paul Blackburn, Fernando Cruz, who've all been able to give you a sub 335 ERA. Yuri De Los Santos is a really good long guy as well, so I think that the Yankees can win a lower scoring game, set them at a minus 129, take their money line. I do like the under. I did somebody told 7.8, 959, 960 on the card. The Angels are going to be on the road against the Astros as Peter Lambert goes for the Astros and Grayson Rodriguez for the Angels. Angels are going to be finding themselves as a pretty good size underdog here, and between plus 158 to a plus 170, minus 180 to minus 183. That number on Houston, 8.5 is the total. Under is minus 110 to a minus 115. Over is minus 105 to a minus 110. And with the Astros, I did set them at a minus 177 on the money line. If you're looking to lay a run half with them, that's in the neighborhood of plus 110 to a plus 116. And I'm going to take a plus 110 or better. Set mine at a plus 109 for Peter Lambert. He is a little bit prone to giving up walks, but he's done a solid job this year in terms of holding down the fourth. Now, the fielding independent compared to the 311 ERA at a 382 does point towards a little bit of regression, but he's only giving up 0.9 home runs per 9 innings. Swing and miss stuff is relatively solid at about 8.9 strikeouts per 9 innings, and on the flip side for Grayson Rodriguez, has been a bit better recently. He's a power pitcher that just hasn't been able to get a lot of swings and misses this year. 8.4 strikeouts per 9 innings, 7.17 ERA, a 5.10 fielding dependent, so that does point towards a little bit of positivity. And now he's given up 3 earned runs or fewer in each out of his last 4 starts, but still it's been shaky there, and he's went 5 innings or fewer in 4 of his last 5 starts. That leaves a lot of exposure to this bullpen of the Angels, which honestly since June 1st it has not been the world's worst bullpen, but you still have to have a lot of question marks. You do have Sammy Natera, who's been able to give you a sub 335 ERA, and I will say, someone like an Jose Fermin has been solid in this bullpen. They do have Sam Bachman now on the injury list, but they get back Ben Joyce. Luke Murphy has been a nice find for this unit, but also have an Angels team that is averaging since the All-Star break about 3 runs per game. Now, they do average a full run per game more away from home rather than at home this season, with having Mike Trout along with Zach Neto giving you 20 home runs apiece. For Trout only hitting a 240 but a 381 on base, you've been able to get some relatively okay production out of a few of the mix and match guys like a Wade Meckler is hitting a 290, Jose Siri has been able to about a 260 himself, but that said as well, Peraza about a 275 on base. You've got Adam Frazier, who's been hitting about a 235. He does have 8 home runs and 98 at-bats, but he's not necessarily been amazing. Moises Ballesteros in an Angels uniform has been absolutely awful, by the way. And for the Houston Astros, you had Yordan Alvarez, who's been absolutely incredible, 430 on base with 36 home runs entering into yesterday. And then Isaac Paredes, Cam Smith, 16-plus home runs piece. Now, I will say for Smith, he's hitting a 223, and you just see more of these outfielders in general. Taylor Trammell, when you had him out there, Jake Myers, he's not in the fold right now along with Bryce Matthews, but those two guys, Lamont Wade Jr., throwing there Zach DeZenzo, Zach Cole, so many guys that are hitting a 230 or lower, but they make up for it with someone like an Isaac Paredes, give you a 350 on base. You've had Christian Walker supply 23 home runs, not a ton of average, but he's done a solid job there as well. So I do like what the Astros are bringing to the table on that front end. For the Astros, this has been a top 5 team in terms of opening rate since June 1st. Getting back Josh Hader has made all the difference in the world for this unit. You do have the likes of a Steven Okert, Alante J. Bluba, or down below a 340 ERA. Bennett Sosa has been a little bit up and down along with Brian King, both of these guys between about a 380 to a 4 ERA, but you've also been able to have these mix and match guys be able to step up, do a nice job. Miguel Olio is showing some upside, so do think that the Astros should be able to get the job done by multiple runs. Semi-total at 8.3, so one to lay a run half with the Astros, and I'm going to be in on the State after the under. 961, 962 on the card. You've got the Giants. They're going to be on the road against the Cleveland Guardians as Kevin Williams goes for the Guardians and Landon Roop for the San Francisco Giants. 7.5 is the total. Over and under both at -110 and -182, -186 is that number with regards to Cleveland. Between +157 to a +170 is that number on San Francisco. And I'm going to be willing to take the plus number here with the Giants. I set them at a +168. Now for Landon Roop, you'll look at the overall ERA numbers, and it's nothing that's going to knock your socks off, and he has not been in the world's greatest form, as he has now given up at least 4 runs in 3 out of his last 4 starts, but 4.31 ERA, 3.62 fielding dependent, giving up just 0.7 home runs per 9 innings. And this Cleveland Guardians lineup, even though they had in there Joe Adell, who's been able to give you 16-plus home runs, even though you also get in there another guy or two like a Nathaniel Lowe, who's been able to help you out with regards to this offense as well, it still just leaves a lot to be desired with this Guardians team. They do continue to be a bottom 3 unit in terms of run creation with only about 4 runs per game, and on the other end of things, I'm not saying that the Giants are absolutely lighting the world on fire, but they do average a little bit over 4 runs per game away from home. Now, Gavin Williams has been significantly better when he's been at home rather than away from home. Has had a little bit of hard contact issue, giving up about 1.4 to 1.5 home runs per 9 innings, but he does get over 11 strikeouts per 9 innings. The big issue for him is that when he's away from home, it does feel like he just gets knocked around a little bit more. You take a look at that home ERA, goes down to a 3.27 compared to a 4.25 ERA when he's away from home. About 1.25 home runs per 9 innings allowed at home, away from home well above 1.5. So that's really been the issue for him. For the Cleveland Guardians, still a very rock-solid bullpen, as well as you've been able to get good production out of Cade Smith, a sub-250 ERA. Now, Colin Holderman is dealing with a little bit of injury, and Craig Yoho, Hunter Gaddis, Eric Sabrowski, they are above a 3.45 ERA, but even someone like a Matt Festa has been able to step up in this bullpen. But for the San Francisco Giants, even though they do trade away quite a few pieces at the deadline, and they've been a bottom 10 team in terms of opening area as well. You've got the likes of Sam Antiges, Keaton Wynn, JT Brubaker, along with Dylan Smith. These have all been guys that have come out there giving you a sub-365 ERA. And for the Giants, you've been able to have Rafael Devers actually step up in a big way for this team. Up to 25 home runs this season. They do trade away Luis Arraez, so that's been an issue. But Jungle Lee continues to move the line, hitting at 292. Has been a little bit in and out of the lineup, but Bryce Eldridge up to about a 340 on base. They need to get back Daniel Susich. He's been in and out of the fold at the catcher spot, but now Drew Gilbert will give you about a 325 on base. And then on the flip side for the Cleveland Guardians, Steven Kwan has picked it up. He and Chase Salata both give you above a 350 on base. Jose Ramirez just not having a great year, though. And then these guys like a Petey Halpin, along with Daniel Schneemann, Reese Hoskins, a lot of guys towards the bottom of the fold, hitting below at 230. You've had Austin Hedges actually do a relatively solid job for the team, but I do think that for Landon Roop, he's going to go out there and have himself a really nice start. Plus 169 or better. I'm going to be in on the Giants on the money line. So I told 7.8, so at the 7.5, I'm in on the over. 963, 964 on the card. The Braves are going to be on the road against the White Sox as Anthony K says okay to another start, and got Grant Holmes going for the Atlanta Braves. This is a relative pick'em game. I'm seeing minus 105 to minus 115 on both sides, with a total of 8.5. The over is minus 115 to a minus 110. The under is between minus 105 to a minus 110, and with the Braves, I did set them at a minus 119. I'm going to be in on this money line for Grant Holmes. He is going to be doing for some regression. Like the ERA, I'm not saying it's sterling, but 382, relatively solid, but 491 fielding dependent, 1.5 home runs, 3.9 walks per 9 innings, while getting fewer than 8 strikeouts per 9 innings. But for Anthony K, he's probably going to be doing for some regression as well. He has now given up 3 earned runs or fewer in each out of his last 8 starts since the beginning of the month of July, but 401 ERA, 479 fielding dependent, swing and miss stuff has really not been up, 7.3 strikeouts to 3.3 walks per 9 innings, so all sorts of question marks there. You do have a pair of teams that are very much equals with regards to their offense as well. The Atlanta Braves are 6th in the big leagues in terms of run creation with about 4.7 to 4.8 runs per game. Same goes for the Chicago White Sox. Relative equal playing field there. For the Atlanta Braves, they do a little bit of better job in terms of being able to put bat to ball, and with the Atlanta Braves, they draw a few fewer walks than the Chicago White Sox. Meanwhile, for the White Sox, you've got your main three who have all been able to pop off for over 25 home runs. Montaka Murakami, Miguel Vargas, Lon Colson Montgomery. For Montgomery, less than a 300 on base, but for Murakami and Miguel Vargas, both hitting below 245, but Vargas 348 on base, 367 for Murakami, and then you do have Chase Meadroth give you a 350 on base. Tristan Peters is sitting at 270. Sam Antonachi 270, but closer to a 370 on base. And to the credit of the White Sox, this has been a top 6 team in terms of opening ERA since June 1st. The likes of Sean Newcomb, the opener from a day or two ago, Brian Hudson, Oscar Brisbane, Grant Taylor, sub 350 ERA. Trevor Richards has been solid, but the Atlanta Braves, they are number 1 in the National League in terms of opening ERA. The Dillons, Dylan Lee, Dylan Dodd, along with DDA Fuentes, Raisel Iglesias, they've all been able to give you a sub 335 ERA. Now Tyler Kinley has acted up a little bit, but even Victor Medeiros has been able to give you some relatively okay innings in this bullpen, and then Matt Olson has just been absolutely lighting it up in terms of the home run numbers, 36 bombs as far this season, but then you've got from there a trio of guys with between 20 and 21, Ozzy, Albies, Drake Baldwin, along with Michael Harris, and I mean, for Harris, he's hitting a 290, for Baldwin, about a 360 on base. Need a little bit more likes of Mike Yastrzemski, Austin Riley, little bit of disappointing seasons for them, but even Mauricio Dubon moves the line, along with someone like a Dom Smith. So with the Braves, I'm going to be willing to trust in them, set them at a minus 119, like that money line and the over. Semi-total 9.1, 965, 966 on the card. It is the Mariners. They are going to be on the road against the Brewers as Robert Gasser goes for the Brewers and George Kirby goes for Seattle. Seattle does find themselves as an underdog here between minus 125 to a minus 131 for the Brewers, between plus 108 to a plus 115 for Seattle. 8 is the total. Over is minus 110 to a minus 120. Under is between even a minus 110, and I do like this to the over. Semi-total at an 8.3. Recognize that for the Seattle Mariners, man, it's been a no good, very bad, terrible season for them. Out of 30 teams in terms of run creation, they are 30th in all of baseball, but I do think that they can catch up to Robert Gasser a little bit, who has been significantly better when he has been at home rather than away from home this year. 347 home ERA with 1 home run allowed per 9 innings, 559 ERA with 2.2 home runs allowed per 9 innings for Mr. Gasser, about 8 to 8.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, and then for George Kirby, does have a 389 ERA with a slightly lower fielding dependent, 1.1 home runs, 2 walks allowed per 9 innings, but what has been really hurting him is that he hasn't been able to get the swings and misses that he has in the past. He's never been like a super duper dominant strikeout guy or anything like that, but he is down to about 7.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, so that's been a little bit worrisome this season. And when it comes to what you've been getting out of the lineup for the Seattle Mariners team, man, you're just going to need to get a little bit more out of Cal Raleigh, hitting less than a $175. The big dumper is now taking a big dump on the team, so that's been a little bit less than tremendous, to say the least. Now, you do have a few guys that are giving you some okay power. Tom Canzone, Julio Rodriguez, Randy Arozarena, all between 17 to 19 home runs apiece, and for Arozarena, over a 360 on base out of him. Tom Canzone has been solid with his on base. Josh Naylor has been able to about a 265, and Cole Young, he's hitting about a 260 with 15 home runs, but these mix and match guys at the bottom of the fold have not been great, and Taylor Ward has just seen a complete power suck. Meanwhile, for the Milwaukee Brewers, Jake Bauers, 22 home runs and a 387 or so on base. He has been amazing for the team. But how about Bryce Durang, Jackson Chourio? Both give you 15 plus home runs. Both of these guys are going to nicely give you over a 335 on base. Andrew Vaughn is hitting a 300. William Contreras is moving the line. And then for the Brewers, they've been a top 2 team in terms of bullpen area in the National League. Fully recognize that right now Abner Uribe is on the injury list, but Aaron Ashby, Trevor McGill, Gill. These have been guys who have been able to give you a sub-3.45 ERA. Chad Patrick has been very good as a long guy along the alternate up Hall. They should be getting Jojo Romero back relatively soon, and Antonio Senzatella is starting to see some regression, but Shane Drone sticking him in the bullpen now, that's going to be able to help out. And for the Seattle Mariners, the top end guys have been relatively solid. Andres Munoz did have a little bit of a rough go of it in Houston, but since the middle of June, he's been able to round back into the form that we all know and love. And for Edward Bizardo, Jose Ferrer, they've been relatively trustworthy, but we've seen Ferrer go up to about a 3.71 ERA. Do not trust in Sir Anthony Dominguez whatsoever. He has been absolutely terrible for the team, but someone like Nick Davia has been solid. So fascinating circumstance. I do think that you're going to be able to get some runs in this game with the Brewers just small balling you to death like the over, so I might tell it at 8.3. And for the Brewers, one way up to minus 145 on the money line. Wrap things up with 967, 968 on the card. It is the Nationals. They are going to be on the road against the Rangers as Jacob deGrom is on the bump for the Rangers and Andrew Alvarez for the Washington Nationals. And your total on this game, it is 7.5. Over is minus 115 to minus 120. Under is even to minus 105. With the Texas Rangers between minus 153 to minus 174 is that number. Plus 135 to a plus 146 is that number on the Washington Nationals. Set this at a minus 157. So like minus 153, minus 155. That's my absolute max lay here on the Walker Texas Rangers. Do be mindful that even though Jacob deGrom is really not giving up the walks, he's still been able to do a nice job with the strikeout numbers. He is giving up a little bit more contact than in the past. That's why he's got a 3.95 ERA, 1.3 home runs allowed per 9 innings, but only giving up about 2.3 walks per 9 innings, 11 punch-outs per 9. You do like to see that. And for Andrew Alvarez, I actually really like his stuff. This is someone that I think is going to be a cornerstone for the Nationals moving forward. 3.72 ERA and a 3.20 fielding independent, 8.3 strikeouts with 0.4 home runs allowed per 9 innings, but he has a tendency to knock himself out of starts very early with 4 walks per 9 innings. And for the Washington Nationals, this is currently a bottom 2 team in the National League in terms of bullpen ERA. Just have not been able to get a lot of production out of these mix and match guys. Will Dion has actually become a really nice bulk guy for them, but these guys like a Max Kranick has over a 5 ERA. Trevor Williams has not been good in this bullpen. Jake Bird over a 4 ERA. Tom Cosgrove is not very trustworthy. You're really having a tough time finding anything whatsoever. And for the Nationals, they are still dealing with the injuries. James Wood currently being out the fold, and then just having guys dealt at the trade deadline like Curtis Mead. But CJ Abrams, 29 bombs, give you a 355 on base. He has been tremendous. You've got Jacob Young, give you a double-figure amount of homers along Dallin Lyle. Both of these guys move lining between about a 245 to a 250. You've been able to get tons and tons of stolen bases out of him. Nasim Nunez, not a guy that's going to give you power, but hey, 40 stolen bases is 40 stolen bases, and Rangers offense starting to ignite a little bit more. Corey Seagerson's coming off the injury list, has looked a little bit more like his normal self. Jock Peterson has been able to give you 20 plus home runs, and he's up to about a 340 on base. Jake Berger really doesn't give you any sort of on base, but hey, guy's been able to hit between 19 to 20 home runs. They've had him platooning a little bit here recently, and then you do have guys finding a way on like Nicky Lopez, Brandon Nimmo, Wyatt Langford, don't call his name, Alejandro Azuna, Ezekiel Duran, all these guys in the neighborhood about a 255 to 270 for the Rangers. This has been a little bit of a shaky bullpen as well since June 1st. They've been in the bottom half of the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. You do have the Jacobs, Jacob Junis, Jacob Latz, along with Tyler Alexander. I'll give you a sub 355 ERA, and they do pick up Chase Gilseth at the trade deadline from the Angels. He's been able to do a solid job there, but Cole Winn well above a 5 ERA. Robbie Alstrom has been giving you over a 450 ERA, so that's a little bit of an issue. So I do think that you're going to be able to get some runs in this game, like the over, so I might tell it at 8.1. And for the Rangers, want to go up to a minus 156 on the money line, and that'll wrap things up for the Thursday edition of the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Big thanks to our guy, Matt Joseph, aka Major Matt, for joining me here in the last segment. If you do like hearing from this fine podcast, Baseball Betting Show, you're able to subscribe wherever your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you have one or two ways to be able to fire those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, letters they mean does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. And the other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. And then from there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast. Right, that 5-star review. I'm with you guys every single day, give you picks and analysis on every game, every day. So I'll be back with you once again tomorrow. Thank you.